pagsagip ng mga operatiba sa mga stranded na minero sa binahang-minahan ng uling sa India.
Kamustahin po natin ang lagay sa incident site mula sa mga detalye ng balitang ibabahagi maya-maya. Magandang gabi. Ako po si Rikki Mathay.
Ako si Rikki Alagao Flores. Ito ang mata ng Agila International. Para naman sa mga headlines ngayong araw ng Martes.
Annual average inflation rate ng Pilipinas sa taong 2024 bumagal sa 3.2%.
Bureau of Customs naglabas ng guidelines para sa free trade agreement ng Pilipinas at ng South Korea.
North Korea nagpalipad ng panibagong missile bilang babala sa Estados Unidos.
Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau nagbitiw na sa kanyang tungkulin.
At hindi bababa sa 70 katao nasawi mula sa tumamang lindol sa Tibet region ng China. Iniulat ng Philippine Statistics Authority na pumalo sa 3.2% ang 2024 average inflation rate ng Pilipinas.
Samantala, pumalo naman sa 2.9% ang naitalang inflation rate ng PSA noong December 2024. Ayon kay National Statistician Dennis Mapa, mas mababa ang naitalang annual average inflation rate noong 2024 kung ikukumpara sa naitalang 2023 annual average inflation rate na 6%. Paliwanag ni Mapa na kapag ambag sa mababang trend ng inflation ng bansa, ang pagbaba naman ng index sa food and non-alcoholic beverage sa 4.4%. Ang inflation o food inflation naman ang partikular na bumaba mula 8% noong 2023 patungo sa 4.5% naman ng 2024. Samantala, pasok pa rin sa target range ng inflation rate ng gobyerno na 2 hanggang 4% ang naitalang average inflation rate ng Pilipinas sa taong 2024.
Naglabas ng mga alituntunin ng pamunuan ng Bureau of Customs para sa implementasyon ng Free Trade Agreement o FTA sa pagitan ng Pilipinas at ng South Korea. Ayon sa Customs Bureau, dapat masiguro ng mga exporters na mayroon silang Certificate of Origin upang matiyak nila na masusunod ang mga alituntuning ipatutupad. Nakabalangkas po kasi sa Customs Memorandum Order 11/2024 o ang Guidelines on the Issuance of Proof of Origin granting of preferential tariff treatment under the Philippines-Korea Free Trade Agreement. Ang mga alituntuning dapat sumailalim ang mga kalakal mula sa Korea sa mga detalyadong pagsusuri ng produkto. Kabilang dito ang pagsusumite ng mga profile ng kumpanya, mga flowchart, pagsusuri ng gastos at mga invoice ng benta.
Nakatakdang makipagtulungan ang Korte Suprema ng Pilipinas sa Korea International Cooperation Agency o COICA Philippines para sa modernisasyon ng court system ng ating bansa. Ayon sa Korte Suprema, layo ng partnership ng Pilipinas at ng South Korea na lumikha ng isang electronic verification and case and evidence management system, gawing digital ang court records at bigyan ng training ang mga court personnel. Bahagi rin ng mandato na ito na bawasan ang backlogs ng korte at mas streamline ang adjudication process sa pamamagitan ng makabagong teknolohiya. Sa panig ng COICA, magsasagawa ng preliminary survey ito sa mga korte sa Pilipinas mula Enero 6 hanggang 15. Inaasahan namang may lulunsad ang proyekto sa susunod na taon.
Malapit ng isapinal ng National Bureau of Investigation o NBI ang investigasyon kay Vice President Sara Duterte kaugnay ng pagbabanta nito sa buhay ni Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. Ayon kay NBI Director Jaime Santiago, tinimbang nila ang lahat ng mga ebidensya at testimonya na kanilang hawak kung saan ay Enero 2 pa lamang ay sinimulan na nilang pinag-aralan. Sinabi ni Santiago nga maaaring ipadala na nila sa Department of Justice ang resulta ng kanilang investigasyon sa January 15. Aminado si Santiago na naging maingat sila dahil sa makakaapekto ito sa lagay ng politika sa bansa.
Nagpahayag ng pagkabahala ang Malacanang sa presensya ng tinaguriang monster ship ng China sa Exclusive Economic Zone o EEZ ng Pilipinas. Sa isang press briefing na isinagawa sa palasyo, sinabi ni Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin ang presensya ng monster ship ng China sa rehiyon ay isang matter of projection. Matatanda ang sinabi ng Philippine Coast Guard na ang ginagamit ng China Coast Guard ang monster ship nito bilang intimidation sa mga mangingisda sa Pilipinas. Natagpuan kasi ng PCG ang nasabing barko ng China malapit sa 54 nautical miles ng Caponza Island ng baybayin ng Zambales. Sa kasalukuyan, patuloy pa rin ang monitoring ng PCG sa monster ship ng China gamit sa pamamagitan ng BRP Cabra at ng aircraft nito. Kinumpirma ng Pag-asa ang pag-iral ng La Nina phenomenon sa Tropical Pacific. Ayon sa State Weather Bureau, simula ngayong Enero hanggang Marso ay aasahan ang above normal rainfall sa Pilipinas. Paliwanag pa ng ahensya na abot na ang kinakailangang buhos ng ulan mula nitong nakaraang buwan para maideklara ang pag-iral ng La Nina. Inabisuhan naman ng Pag-asa ang publiko mag-ingat sa posibleng insidente tulad ng pagbaha at pagguho ng lupa dahil sa labis na pagbuhos ng ulan.
Susunod, ano nga ba ang bagong pinalipad na missile ng North Korea?
British public may mensahe para kay tech billionaire Elon Musk.
Mga detalye ng mga balitang yan at iba pa sa pagbabalik na mata ng Agila International.
This portion is brought to you by BioQuick, high-quality products for hospitals and labs with 19 years of dedicated service.
Ito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. Mailalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa New Era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
National Rally for Peace, January 13, 2025. A Net 25 special coverage.
Sa kasulukuyang henerasyon, marami na ang nag-viral. Dahil po yan sa kanilang ginagawang pagtulong sa kapwa. Pero mas marami ang tumutulong kahit walang nakakakita. Kaya naman kung ikaw ay may kilala na grupo o individual na may natatanging pagresponde sa lipunan, At maging sa kalikasan, mag-text lamang sa 0915-415-1035 o mag-email sa responde@net25.com at magpadala ng mensahe sa ating Facebook page at Net25TV. Baka kayo na ang susunod nating Certified Key Responder.
Let's net together sa Net25. Sa Net25.
Habang patuloy na nababahala ang publiko tungkol sa umano'y pagkalat ng human metapneumovirus o HMPV sa China, ay kinumpirma naman ng gobyerno ng Indonesia na may dalawa itong pasyente na nagpositibo sa HMPV. Ayon sa Karnataka Health Department, nagpositibo sa HMPV ang isang 3 buwang gulang na babaeng sanggol at na-admit ito sa isang ospital sa Bengaluru City. Binanggit din ng Union Health Ministry na noong January 3 ay isa namang 8 buwang gulang na sanggol ang na-diagnose na may HMPV. Parehong may history nila ng bronchopneumonia ang 2 sanggol na nasa recovery stage na ngayon. Sinabi ng mga health experts sa Indonesia na walang travel history ang mga pasyente at posibleng locally acquired ang kanilang HMPV infection. Hindi pa malinaw kung ang sample ng virus na nakuha sa mga sanggol ay kapareho ng virus strain ng HMPV na kumakalat sa China. Sa gitna ng mga pangambang hatid ng HMPV ay sinabi ni Dr. Atul Goel, Director General of Health Services, walang dapat ikaalarma ang publiko dahil ang HMPV anya ay gaya ng ibang respiratory viruses na nakakaapekto sa mga bata at sa mga matatanda. Tiniyak din niya na handa ang mga ospital sa Indonesia upang rumesponde kung sakaling tumaas ang bilang ng mga magkakasakit. Hinikayat din niya ang publiko na ugaliing maging malinis sa katawan at uminom agad ng gamot sa panahon ng taglamig.
There has been news doing the rounds about a metapneumovirus outbreak in China. Let me be very clear on that count. Metapneumovirus is like any other respiratory virus which causes a common cold. And in the very old and the very young, it could cause flu-like symptoms. However, we have analyzed the data of the respiratory outbreaks within the country. There is no substantial increase in December 2024 data. In any case, during winters, there is an increased outbreak of respiratory virus infections for which our hospitals are usually prepared with the necessary supplies and the necessary beds. One thing I would like to convey to the public is to take the general precautions that we use against all respiratory infections, which means in case somebody has cough and cold, he should avoid coming in contact with a lot number of people so that the infection does not spread. And while using a distinct hanky or towel for coughing and sneezing, and take the normal medicines that are required for cold or fever whenever it's there. Otherwise, nothing to be alarmed about the present situation.
Naglunsad ang North Korea ng hinihinalang Intermediate Range Ballistic Missile o IRBM nitong Lunes kasabay ng pagbisita ni U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken sa Seoul sa South Korea. Ayon sa militar ng North Korea, inilunsad ang missile bandang tanghali ilang sandali matapos magpulong sina Blinken at Temporary President Choi Sang-mok na pumalit kay Pangulong Yoon Suk-yeol matapos ang kanyang suspensyon. Tiniyak ni Blinken ang suporta ng Estados Unidos sa seguridad ng South Korea at nanawagan para maitatag ang defense posture laban sa mga banta ng Pyongyang. Umabot sa higit 1,100 kilometers bago bumagsak sa dagat ang naturang missile. Bilang tugon, sinabi ni Blinken ang kahalagahan ng kooperasyon sa pagitan ng Amerika at South Korea, pati na ng Japan, lalo na sa larangan ng pagbabahagi ng real-time missile data at pagsasagawa ng joint military exercises.
We condemn the DPRK's missile launch just today, yet another violation of multiple UN Security Council resolutions. What we've worked to do over these last 4 years is two things. First, we have sought to engage the DPRK and multiple efforts to sit down, to talk without any preconditions. We communicated that on many occasions. We've done it privately, we've done it publicly. And the only response effectively we've gotten has been more and more provocative actions, including the missile launches.
Ipinagmalaki pa ito ni North Korean leader Kim Jong-un kung saan sinabi niyang isa itong epektibong paraan upang makontrol ang kanilang mga karibal sa Pacific region na maaaring maging banta sa kanilang seguridad. Matagal nang hangarin ng North Korea na paunlarin ang kanilang missile systems upang tapatan ang kakayahan ng Estados Unidos, Russia at China. Mula noong nakaraang taon pa ay sinusubukan ng Pyongyang na maperpekto ang kanilang solid fuel hypersonic missile technology. Ayon naman sa South Korea, inilunsad na test launch bilang depensa sa posibleng epekto ng samahan ng Seoul, Washington at Tokyo at kinokonsidera nila itong pagpapatuloy ng mga missile launch na isinagawa ng North Korea noong nakaraang taon.
Dumating na sa Sana si the United Nations Yemen mediator Hans Grunberg para sa posibilidad na mapahupa ng naturang organisasyon ang tumataas na tensyon nito laban sa ibang mga bansa. Nataon po ang kanyang pagbisita sa gitna ng mas pinaigting na airstrikes na isinasagawa ng Estados Unidos at Israel sa kanilang teritoryo. Ginawa lamang ito ng mga bansa bilang tugon sa sunod-sunod na pagpapalipad ng drones and missile ng Yemen sa Tel Aviv ng mga nakalipas na buwan. Matagal nang kinokontrol ng rebeldeng grupo ng Houthi ang malalaking bahagi ng Yemen sa tulong ng Iran. Lumaki rin ang kanilang partisipasyon sa rehiyon matapos sumibol ang giyera ng Israel sa mga kaalyado nitong Hamas at Hezbollah. Ayon naman kay Grunberg ay bumisita siya sa Yemen upang tulungan ang bansang mapausad ang peace process nito sa mga national and regional meetings na isasagawa sa naturang bansa sa mga susunod na araw. Dagdag pa nito, isusulong niya ang pagpapalaya ng mga binihag ng Houthi rebels na tauhan ng United Nations na kasalukuyang nakakulong sa Sana. Inabisuhan naman ito ang lahat ng kampong nasasangkot sa kaguluhan sa Middle East na hindi nakatutulong sa negotiation efforts ng UN ang pakikipagpalitan ng pag-atake. Samantala, maraming miyembro ng United Nations Security Council ang nababahala sa patuloy na pag-atake ng Israel sa mga pagamutan sa Gaza Strip.
I've in fact just received a letter from the Israeli ambassador asserting that Kamal Adwan hospital was militarized by Hamas and that Israeli forces took extraordinary measures to protect civilian life while acting on credible intelligence. Yet, Israel has not provided sufficient information to substantiate many of these claims, which are often vague and broad. In some cases, they appear to be contradicted by publicly available information.
Sinabi ni Volker Turk, ang UN High Commissioner on Human Rights, na ang walang anumang pagpapaliwanag ay isang malinaw na paglabag ng humanitarian law ang ginagawa ng Israel. Maraming mga medical personnel at pasyente ang nadamay. Nagsasagawa na ang UN Security Council ng pagpupulong matapos ang walang tigil na pag-atake ng Israel sa mga pagamutan sa Gaza at ang pag-aresto nila sa hospital director ng Kamal Adwan Hospital sa Husam Abu Saifia. Muling iginiit ni Israel Deputy Ambassador to the UN Jonathan Miller na ginagamit ng mga terorista ang mga ospital bilang kuta ng kanilang mga operasyon, kung kaya't minarapat ng Israeli Defense Force na busisiin ang mga pasilidad sa Gaza.
Despite repeated calls by Israel to cease the unlawful military use of the hospital since the start of the operation in October, these warnings were again ignored and disregarded. This week's precise operation by the IDF revealed the extent of Hamas's abuse of the facility. Over 240 terrorists were apprehended, including 15 who participated in the October 7th massacre. The darkest day in Israel's modern history, where over 1,200 lives were brutally taken by the terrorists. Among those apprehended was the hospital director himself, who is suspected of being a Hamas operative, as hundreds of Hamas and Islamic Jihad terrorists were hiding inside the Kamal Adwan hospital under his management. He is currently being investigated by Israeli security forces.
Kaagad namang sinagot ni Riyad Mansour na walang anumang paliwanag ang makakapagpabalik sa mga buhay na nawala sa mga isinagawang operasyon ng Israel sa mga naturang pagamutan.
Dr. Mahmoud Abu Nujila, who was killed in an Israeli airstrike on Al-Auda Hospital, wrote a message many months ago on a whiteboard in the hospital normally used for planning surgeries. And I quote him, whoever stays until the end will tell the story. We did what we could. Remember us. Remember us. We owe them more than remembrance. Nothing can explain that for 15 months Palestinians in Gaza have endured hell and been abandoned to this fate.
Inakusahan ng Estados Unidos ang Russia na pinopondohan umano ang magkabilang kampo na nakikipagdigma sa Sudan. Ang digmaan na malapit nang tumagal ng isang taon mula noong magkaengkwentro ang Sudanese Armed Forces at Paramilitary Rapid Support Forces bago ang planong palitan sa civilian rule ng bansa. Noong Nobyembre, nagveto ang Russia sa pagpapasa ng isang resolusyon na naglalayong patigilin ang magkabilang kampo sa paglalaban upang makapaghatid ng tulong ang UN sa mga apektadong lugar sa bansa.
This council met just 2 months ago to discuss a resolution calling for a nationwide ceasefire, increased civilian protection, and unhindered flow of aid. 14 council members approved the text drafted by Sierra Leone and the UK. And yet Russia chose obstruction, standing alone as it voted to imperil civilians while funding both sides of the conflict. Yes, that's what I said, both sides.
Ayon naman sa Washington, pamilyar sila sa interes ng Russia sa gintong kayamanan ng Sudan at kinondena naman nila ang kahit na anong pagsuporta para sa kahit anong partido sa digmaan. Sa ngayon ay wala pang nilalabas na pahayag ang Sudan ukol sa naturang issue.
Как подчеркивают, главная проблема британского проекта состоит в том, что в него заложено ложное понимание о том, кто несет ответственность за защиту гражданского населения Судана, контроль и безопасность границ этого государства. Кто может принимать решения о приглашении иностранных сил на территории Судана? С кем, в конце концов, должны взаимодействовать ООНовские чиновники для того, чтобы решать возникающие проблемы и планировать содействие? У нас нет сомнений, что в этой роли может выступать исключительно правительство Судана. Однако британские авторы явно пытаются отказать ему в этом праве. На протяжении всей работы над проектом они потратили немало сил для того, чтобы удалить из текста упоминания законных властей Судана в самых ключевых местах. Их позиция абсурдна и неприемлема, в том числе и в свете того, что правительство Судана представляет свою страну в международных организациях, осуществляет контроль над основными процессами в государстве, занимается распределением гуманитарного содействия, а сами суданцы ищут прибежище и защиты в контролируемых правительством регионах.
Ibinasura ng isang korte sa New York ang hiling ni U.S. President-elect Donald Trump na ipagpaliban ang pagsentensya sa kanyang felony hush money case. Ayon kay Justice Juan Merchan, magpapatuloy ang pagsentensya kay Trump dahil ang mga argumento umano nito laban sa nakatakdang hatol ay repetition lamang o pag-uulit ng kanyang mga argumento na nauna na niyang idinulog na maraming beses sa mga nakalipas na pagkakataon. Sa mga inihain sa korte, ikinatwiran ng mga abogado ni Trump na kanilang hiniling ang pagbasura sa tinawag nilang politically motivated prosecution dahil may depekto anya ito sa simula pa lamang. Isinusulong din ng legal team ni Trump ang pagdinig sa naturang kaso sa appellate court. Matatandaan pong nahatulang guilty si Trump sa 34 na bilang ng felony dahil sa falsification of business records noong Mayo 2024, isa sa dahilan kung kaya't siya ang naging kauna-unahang Pangulo ng Amerika na na-convict sa isang krimen. Nag-ugat ang naturang mga kaso sa pagtatangka ni Trump na ikubli bilang legal expense ang kanyang pagbayad ng $130,000 bilang hush money payment sa isang adult film star.
It's a massive stand that the Judge Marchin took. I think everyone expected that they would courts would fall in line with the decision and say that these acts were immune based on his, President-elect Trump's current position. However, to say that the state claims are not affected by this ruling, it gives there may be some sentence coming now, whether that may be time served or a fine or jail time. But this is unprecedented. I'm very curious to see what happens next, and I would imagine that a court date will be set, and they'll have to determine what the sentencing will be. And so the timing is going to be unique. Are we looking at when he's already a sitting president? It's just a remarkable situation, but a very surprising one.
Nanumpa na si Republican Representative Mike Johnson matapos na maihalal muli sa pwesto sa 119th Congress.
I'm grateful for this nomination. I'm grateful for this election, for the confidence this chamber has placed in me. It is the great honor of my life to serve this body with all of you. This is a momentous time in the history of our nation. It really is. And as members of the 119th Congress, we are stewards of the great American Revolution that began almost exactly now 250 years ago, 1775 and 1776. It will fall at the time of this Congress, the great anniversary. And in these 2.5 centuries, we've been reminded repeatedly that freedom is never free. And we have stood tall as the greatest nation on the face of the earth. It is without debate. We are the freest, the most powerful, most benevolent nation that has ever been in the history of the world.
Nakakuha ito ng kabuuang 218 mga boto habang ang katunggali nito na si Democratic Representative Hakeem Jeffries ay mayroong 215 boto at 1 boto naman sa isang miyembro ng House Republicans. Nakatanggap ito ng standing ovation at matapos ang panunumpa ay pinangunahan din ito ang panunumpa ng mga miyembro ng House of Representatives. Sa kanyang talumpati ay sinabi niyang ang kanyang prioridad ay ang pagdepensa sa border ng kanilang bansa. Agad naman siyang binati ni US President-elect Donald Trump at naniniwala itong kaya nitong gampanan ang kanyang trabaho.
We have a mandate, and that was shown in the election cycle. The people want an America First agenda. They do. Sadly, for the past 4 years of divided government, too many politicians in Washington have done the opposite. Open borders and overregulation have destroyed our cities and stifled innovation. Inflation and weak leadership have left Americans poorer, and they have placed our country in a perilous position. That's right. But in recent months, we've witnessed something happening, something that's really remarkable, a political moment in our modern history, a groundswell of Americans from every state, race, and religion who now demand that we put the interest of Americans first again, and we will, and we will. This is a powerful new coalition of our country. It's a coalition that insists that we purge the policies of America last and we bury them in the graveyard of history's mistakes, because it was a big mistake. To that end, this Congress will renounce the status quo and we will listen to the voices of the people. We will act quickly and we will start by defending our nation's borders. That's the #1 priority. Yes.
Make Greenland great again. Iyan ang pangako ni US President-elect Donald Trump kung sakaling papayag ang Greenland na maging bahagi ng Estados Unidos. Tiniyak din niyang pagproprotektahan at pahahalagahan ng US ang Greenland. Kinumpirma rin ni Trump na pupunta ang kanyang anak at ilang pang Trump representatives sa Greenland upang bisitahin ang ilang magagandang lugar doon. Sinabi rin ng bagong Washington leader na malaking benepisyo para sa Greenland at sa mga mamamayan nito kung magiging kabahagian nila ng Estados Unidos ang Greenland.
Nagsalita ang ilang residente ng London laban sa bilyonaryong si Elon Musk dahil sa umano'y pag-atake nito sa gobyerno ng United Kingdom. Giit nila hindi dapat makialam ang bilyonaryo sa pamamahala nila. Narito ang mga detalye mula kay Jane Kathleen Gregorio.
Noong Lunes, umalma ang Londoners sa online comments ni Elon Musk laban sa gobyerno ng Britain. Ayon sa mga taga-London, Musk should stay out of politics.
Elon Musk should not be involved in any form of politics. He should just stick to business, what he knows. Right? There's a misconception that he knows politics because he made it in business. Micro and macroeconomics are two different things. Elon Musk should just stay out of politics, period.
I'd rather he'd stayed out of politics, personally. He's drifted into German politics as well, so you have to ask why. And basically, we've got lots of billionaires making lots more money while everyone else is struggling, and then telling us that they're there for our greater good. It doesn't cut, so I don't buy it.
Para sa ilan, nakakanervous kung nasasangkot na sa politika ang mga taong may maraming pera.
I get nervous when he starts paying large amounts of money and having a very direct influence on our politics, because I think it's hard for the person in the street like me to really understand what's going on when there's so much influence behind the scenes. But I have no problem with the opinion. I start to get worried when there's direct involvement.
Kamakailan, nagkomento si Musk sa politika ng Britain. Ilang ulit tinuligsan nito si Prime Minister Keir Starmer mula nang sumabog ang anti-immigration riots noong summer. At nitong Lunes, nag-post ng poll si Musk sa X na tinatanong ang mga Amerikano kung dapat bang palayain ng Amerika ang mga tao ng Britain mula sa mapaniil na gobyerno ng mga ito. Ang post ni Musk ay matapos saportahan nito ang mga tawag ukol sa pambansang investigasyon ukol sa paghawak ng mga kaso ng rape na isinagawa ng mga lalaking may Pakistani heritage laban sa mga menor de edad na kababaihan. Ang investigasyon ay pinatakbo ni Starmer. Noong 2014, isang investigasyon ay nakatuklas na may 1,400 na mga bata ang nasubo sa sexual exploitation sa Rotherham, Northern England mula 1997 hanggang 2013.
From the SpaceX Starbase in Boca Chica, Texas, I'm Jane Kathleen Gregorio for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Susunod, halos 100 katao patay matapos lumindol sa Tibet.
Ano ang mga bagong inilabas ngayong CES 2025?
Mga detalye ng mga balitang yan at iba pang mga balita sa pagbabalik pa rin ng Mata ng Agila International.
Si Trina from Kikay's Elite, and nandito kami sa Sampaloc ngayon on our way to Caliraya. So today kasama ko yung mga Kikays. Magra-ride kami using our Vespa. So samahan nyo kami.
This is Motorcycle Republic, tuwing Sabado, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
Let's get together. Sunday 25. Sunday 25.
National Rally for Peace, January 13, 2025. A Net 25 special coverage.
Diyanig na malakas na 7.1 earthquake ang Tibet region ng China kung saan hindi bababa sa 75 katao ang nasawi at 130 naman ang nasaktan. Ayon sa China Earthquake Network Center, natagpuan ang epicenter ng lindol sa Tingri County sa lalim na 10 kilometers. Tumama naman ang lindol bandang 9:05 ng umaga. Ipinag-utos na ni Chinese President Xi Jinping ang pagsasagawa ng all-out search and rescue efforts para mapaliit pa ang bilang ng casualties na dulot ng lindol. Higit sa 1,500 bombero at rescue workers naman ang rumisponde sa mga apektadong lugar. Iniulat naman ng state media ng China na mayroong 22,000 items. Kasama na po dyan ang cotton tents, cotton coats, kubot at folding beds ang pinadala ng Beijing para sa mga lugar na tinamaan ng lindol. Karaniwang niyayanig na malalakas na lindol ang timog kanlurang bahagi ng China, kasama rin ang Nepal at hilagang India dahil sa collision ng Indian and Eurasian tectonic plates.
Patuloy pa rin ang rescue efforts ng emergency service personnel sa India matapos pasukin at mapuno ng tubig ang isang minahan ng uling sa Dima Hasawa District na ikinasawi naman ng 3 mga minero. Ayon sa lokal na ulat, sinusubukan ng mga rescue workers na masagip pa ang 9 na minerong natrap sa loob ng minahan. Inihayag naman ng local government sa lugar na hindi pa nare-recover ng mga otoridad ang mga bangkay ng 3 nasawi. Nag-deploy na rin ang mga divers, helicopters at mga engineers ang Indian Army para tumulong sa rescue operation.
Isa sa mga suliraning kinakaharap ngayon ng Syria ay ang mga paghihigpit ng Estados Unidos sa pangangalakal o trade sanctions. Sinasabi ng maraming balakid ang sanctions na ito sa muling pagbangon ng bansa. NJ Guzman po para sa balita.
Ayon sa bagong trade minister ng Syria, hindi makahakbang ang bansa ukol sa pagkipagkasundo sa pag-aangkat ng langis, trigo at iba pang mga produkto dahil sa napakahigpit na sanctions ng Estados Unidos. Ito ay sa kabila ng kagustuhan makipagkalakalan ng ibang mga bansa tulad ng Gulf Arab States. Sa Damascus, sinabi ni Trade Minister Maher Khalil Al-Hassan na kaipon ng sapat ng trigo at langis ang bagong administrasyon subalit para lamang sa ilang buwan. Anya, kung hindi luluwagan ang sanctions, haharap ang bansa sa sakuna.
الدول العربية الشقيقة وحتى الأجنبية الصديقة يعني تبدي رغبتها واستعدادها للتعاون وتقديم الدعم للشعب السوري. كما نعلم جميعا الشعب السوري عانى سنوات طويلة من الاضطهاد والظلم، لكن ينتظرون فقط تحرير ملف العقوبات. الأهم هو إزالة القيود لكي تستطيع الدول والشركات البدء في العمل في استثمارات على مستوى عالي، خصوصا في موضوع الصناعات الكبيرة أو موضوع الطاقة والنفط وغير ذلك من الأمور الأخرى.
Si Hassan ay miyembro ng bagong administrasyon na ipinwesto ng Islamist rebel group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham matapos mapatalsik si Pangulong Bashar al-Assad noong 8 ng Disyembre pagkaraan ng 13 civil war. Ang trade sanctions ay ipinataw ng namumuno pa si Assad. Tinarget na mga paghihigpit ang gobyerno nito at ilang institusyong pambansa tulad ng Bangko Sentral. Dati-rating nagsusuplay ng langis at trigo ang mga bansang Russia at Iran na mga taga-suporta ni Assad. Tumigil ang mga ito nang manalo ang mga rebelde laban kay Assad na lumipad naman patungong Moscow. Inaabangan ang anusyo ng US ukol sa pagluluwag ng restrictions at pamamahagi ng humanitarian aid sa Syria. NJ De Guzman para sa Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Sa pagbubukas ng Consumer Electronics Show 2025 sa Las Vegas ay nangako ang kumpanyang Samsung na lilikha ito ng AI for all sa kanilang mga consumers.
Last year, we shared our vision of AI for all, where we combined intelligence and connected devices to create unparalleled experience for everyone. It's vision that actually started in 2014 when it said at CES that our homes would be smart in a decade. Today, I want to redefine what home means to us and introduce our roadmap for home AI century.
Ayon kay CEO Han Jong-hee, kaugnay ang pahayag ng Samsung sa naging pangako nito noong CES 2014 na gawing smart ang mga tahanan ng kanilang consumers makalipas ng isang dekada. Kaya ngayon 2025, iginiit ng Samsung na naihatid ng kumpanya ang mga smart refrigerators, wash-dryer combos, smart TVs, smartwatches at iba pa bilang bahagi ng kanilang smart home presentation.
Samsung is also using AI in other ways to make things more personal. I've spent a ton of time making sure my apartment reflects my style, and that includes the art I put on my walls. With the generative wallpaper feature, your compatible Samsung TV can instantly create pictures that match your taste. And starting this year, all Samsung QLED TVs, along with the frame and micro LED, will feature Samsung Art Store with over 3,000 pieces of art that you can display anywhere you have a compatible Samsung TV. It's like bringing the best of MoMA and Musée d'Orsay right to your living room. Actually, it's just that. Well, you know how time flies, especially when watching TV, but it's really time to finish my laundry. Since the bespoke AI laundry combo completed the cycle without me having to switch it from washing to drying, I was able to enjoy the entire show without interruption. And now, I want to share just one more lesson.
Sa parehong event, itinampok naman ng chipmaker company ni NVIDIA sa CES 2025 ang kanilang GeForce RTX 50 series Blackwell architecture. Ayon sa NVIDIA, gamit ang Blackwell Artificial Intelligence Technology ay mas pahuhusayin nito ang performance ng chip. Tulad ng pagpapaunlad ng shaders sa mga video games para sa movie-like graphics nito o kaya isa accurate na itsura ng mga video game characters sa isang laro. Inaasahan din ng kumpanya na magagamit ang nasabing chip sa automotive industry. Git kasi ng NVIDIA sa pamamagitan ng Cosmos Foundation models nito ay kayang mag-train nito ng mga self-driving cars sa mas mababang halaga ng gastos. Samantala, ibinahagi rin ng kumpanya na ipagagamit nito ang kanilang Orin chips sa Toyota motor para mas mapaunlad pa ang driver assistance ng mga sasakyan nito. Hindi naman sinabi ng NVIDIA kung anong model ito ng sasakyan ng Toyota.
Muling lalaban sa One Championship ang Pinay mixed martial artist na si Islay Erica Bomogao. Makakalaban po ng Igorota Muay Thai fighter ang Chinese fighter na si Ran Longshu sa ilalim ng 101-pound catchweight division ng Muay Thai. Ang bakbakan sa pagitan ni Bomogao at Longshu ay isa sa 12 fights na nakahanay sa January 10. Gaganapin ang naturang laban sa Lumpini Stadium sa Thailand. Maaalala nga nitong huling bahagi ng 2024 ay naging world number 1 si Bomogao sa 45-kilogram female elite division ng International Federation of Muay Thai Associations. Siya ang kauna-unahang Pinay na nakakuha ng naturang award. Bago ang kanyang pagpasok sa One Championship, ay nagsanay siya kasama ang ibang malalaking Filipino MMA fighters katulad nina Edward Falayang at Gigi Eustachio. At tandaan po, narito kami para maghatid ng balita saan mang dako na mundo. Magandang gabi po. Muli ako po si Rikki Mathay.
Ako naman si Rikki Alagao Flores. Ito pa rin ang Mata ng Agila International. Para naman po sa mga balitang nangyari rin sa iba't ibang panig pa ng mundo, punta tayo kay Alma Angeles para sa Mata ng Agila World News. Take it away, Alma.
Thank you, Nina and Rikki. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alma Angeles for Net 25 World News. On tonight's headlines. A powerful earthquake shook the northern foothills of the Himalayas near what Tibet considers its holiest city on Tuesday morning. It caused widespread damage and loss of life. No more suspense. Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has officially announced his resignation. Speaking in Ottawa, he shared that he will step down after his party selects a new leader.
But I have always been driven by my love for Canada, by my desire to serve Canadians, and by what is in the best interests of Canadians. And Canadians deserve a real choice in the next election. And it has become obvious to me with the internal battles that I cannot be the one to carry the Liberal standard into the next election.
So what's up next? And the news starts now. A powerful earthquake shook the northern foothills of the Himalayas near what Tibet considers its holiest city on Tuesday morning. It caused widespread damage and loss of life. A strong earthquake has shaken Tibet, leaving at least 53 people dead and injuring dozens more. And rescuers are racing against time, searching through rubble for survivors as aftershocks continue to rattle the region. The quake struck about 75 kilometers northeast of Mount Everest near Shigatse, which Tibetans consider their holy city. Tibet's Shigatse region is home to 800,000 people, with reports of aftershocks rattling villages. The impact was felt beyond China, reaching Nepal's capital Kathmandu and even parts of India. The U.S. Geological Survey recorded it as a magnitude 7.1 quake, relatively shallow at just 10 kilometers deep, adding to the intensity of the shaking. With dozens still trapped, rescuers are working around the clock, hoping to find more survivors. Canada's Liberal Party has hung out the Help Wanted sign following Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's announcement that he is resigning. Now, Trudeau said he will stay on in the top job until the party chooses a replacement. Thomas I. Likeness for more.
This country deserves a real choice in the next election, and it has become clear to me that if I'm having to fight internal battles, I cannot be the best option in that election.
And that political infighting prompted Trudeau's decision to step aside. Parliament has also been suspended until March 24th to give the Liberals time to find a new leader. Trudeau has been under heavy pressure from party members amid polls that show the Liberals would be trounced in the next election.
As you all know, I am a fighter, and I am not someone who backs away from a fight, particularly when a fight is as important as this one is. But I have always been driven by my love for Canada, by my desire to serve Canadians, and by what is in the best interests of Canadians.
The new leader will immediately become Prime Minister and lead the party into the next election, and that must be held before October 20th of this year. But after Parliament resumes, opposition parties could topple the government with a non-confidence vote, and that would mean an election could be called as early as May. Whether a new face in the Liberals' front office will improve party fortunes is an open question. Public policy professor Kathy Brock says there are several reasons for Trudeau's plummeting popularity.
One reason is just his government is approaching the 10-year mark, and it's actually at the 9-year mark. And that's when people start to get tired of the government. They do want to see a change. But on top of that, it was felt that he wasn't sensitive to concerns that the average person felt. So the cost of food, inflation, the cost of gas, the problems with the border, crime going up in cities.
Trudeau's resignation, his eventual successor, and a possible early election couldn't come at a worse time, with Donald Trump threatening to impose 25% tariffs on Canadian goods the day he moves back into the White House. Political leaders and business groups are worried. Ontario Premier Doug Ford says Trudeau has to focus 100% on the issue of tariffs for the next month or two.
We have 14 days left before we elect President Trump.
gets inaugurated, and we need to focus to make sure these tariffs don't move forward, and if they do move forward, we need to make sure that the federal government has a strong plan.
In Western Canada, Alberta Premier Danielle Smith says with the Liberal leadership in flux, it will be up to provincial leaders to make the case to the Americans, and she says that's why she'll be attending Trump's inauguration.
I'll be staying there for 4 or 5 days. I hope to be able to put forward the case that I made today about how we are the Americans' best friend and trading partner. We can provide the resources that they need to be successful, and that we are also their biggest consumer.
Trump reacted to Trudeau's announcement by repeating earlier comments that Canada would benefit from becoming the 51st U.S. state. But that suggestion is even less popular in Canada than the outgoing Prime Minister. Thomas I. Likeness, Net 25 World News.
Now, joining us now is Thomas I. Likeness. Thomas, President-elect Donald Trump has recently suggested that Canada could become part of the United States, the 51st state of the U.S. How have people reacted to this idea, especially in terms of national identity and relations between the two countries?
You know, Elma, every time Trump suggests that our country should become the 51st American state, he just embarrasses himself with how little he knows about Canadians or Canada. There's absolutely no appetite up here for the two countries to merge. No one here wants to lose the social safety nets that we have, and that includes things like universal free health care. And we're not interested in looser gun laws so that we can enjoy the chaos of mass shootings on a daily basis. And politically, we don't want to endure 2-year political campaigns. You know, election campaigns up here are just 28 days. That's only 4 weeks. We're a sovereign country. We're also an ally of the United States, but that doesn't mean we want to become part of the U.S. Joining the U.S. is a non-starter here and just delusional thinking on Trump's part. Elma?
Okay, Thomas, as Justin Trudeau's tenure as Prime Minister comes to an end, what kind of legacy do you think he will leave behind?
Well, he'll certainly be viewed, Elma, as one of the more progressive leaders in the world. Public policy professor Kathy Brock describes him as being a terrific communicator. She says, you know, Trump has made a lot of promises, but his delivery has been weak. My own observation, Trump had a lot of charisma. He campaigned on style. But what he seemed to lack was the substance. You know, lots of sizzle, no steak. There just didn't seem to be a lot of depth to him. It's unlikely he'll be remembered as one of Canada's strongest prime ministers, but he will be remembered as someone who was committed to moving Canada forward in this century. Elma?
Thank you, Thomas. We'll be watching out for your updates. No more suspense. Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has officially announced his resignation. Speaking in Ottawa, he shared that he will step down after his party selects a new leader. But don't expect him to leave immediately. Trudeau plans to stay on until the leadership process is complete, which could take a few months. Now, in his speech, he acknowledged the internal struggles within his party, admitting that if he's constantly fighting those battles, he can't be the best candidate for the upcoming election. So, what's up next?
Canada's Justin Trudeau said he would step down as Prime Minister in the coming months after nearly a decade in power, bowing to pressure as polls showed his party would be crushed in the next election.
I intend to resign as party leader, as Prime Minister, after the party selects its next leader through a robust, nationwide, competitive process. But I have always been driven by my love for Canada, by my desire to serve Canadians, and by what is in the best interest of Canadians. And Canadians deserve a real choice in the next election. And it has become obvious to me with the internal battles that I cannot be the one to carry the Liberal standard into the next election.
But what happens now? Trudeau said he would stay on both as Prime Minister and Liberal leader until the party picks a new one to take it into the next election. In Canada, unlike the process in other countries, party leaders are chosen by special leadership conventions that can take months to organize. The next federal election in Canada must take place before the end of October. Trudeau also announced on Monday he prorogued or suspended Parliament until March 24th. This means opposition parties who had planned to bring down his minority government as soon as they could will now have to wait until sometime in May. If all the opposition parties vote together on a non-confidence motion, the Liberals will be defeated and a new election called. If the Liberals are still in power by Parliament's scheduled summer break on June 20th, an election would be held as scheduled. The Liberals could also be brought down over the annual budget, most likely to come in April. When Trudeau took over the leadership in 2013, the contest lasted 5 months. A nightmare scenario for the Liberals is that the party takes so long to choose a new leader that Trudeau will still be in charge when the next election is called. That means it's likely the party will announce a shortened contest designed to get the next leader in office as soon as possible. Former Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland and Mark Carney, former Governor of the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England, could run to replace Trudeau alongside a number of current cabinet ministers. Polls strongly indicate that the Liberals will lose the election, no matter who the leader is.
And now to the Middle East, where Iran's foreign minister has issued a sharp warning to Israel, promising retaliation against any future attacks, while cautioning that continued Israeli aggression could ignite a broader regional conflict. Take a look. He emphasized Iran's commitment to diplomacy, consulting with allies, including China.
We are fully prepared for the possibility of further attacks by Israel. I hope Israel will refrain from taking such reckless actions, as it could lead to a large-scale war. Of course, we will continue to pursue a diplomatic approach, stay in contact with regional countries, and consult with friendly nations like China. We believe that reason will ultimately prevail and prevent actions that could have serious consequences.
His remarks come amid growing fears of escalation as Israel faces recurring missile attacks from Yemen's Houthi rebels, who are widely believed to be supported by Iran. This tension follows a year of intense clashes. On October 1st last year, Iran fired 200 ballistic missiles at Israel, most of which were intercepted. Israel retaliated weeks later by targeting Iranian military sites. Meanwhile, a disturbing video released by Hamas has highlighted the human impact of the ongoing conflict in Gaza. Now take a look at this footage featuring a 19-year-old Israeli soldier abducted during Hamas's deadly October 7th attack. In this video, she pleads for her release, expressing her youth and how her life has been shattered. Her family, distraught by her distress, publicly urged Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to act swiftly.
עם ישראל היקר, קיבלנו היום אות חיים מלירי. סרטון שלנו, קשה לראות. זה אותו לירי שאנחנו מכירים. היום דיבר איתנו ראש הממשלה, נשיא המדינה, הרמטכ"ל, שר הביטחון, ואמרנו לו שיעשו עסקה, זה הזמן. יש את לירי ועוד 99 חטופים שצריכים לבוא הביתה במהרה.
אנחנו דרשנו מראש הממשלה ומשר הביטחון שלא יחזרו, שצוות המשא ומתן לא יחזור בלי הסכם. הבנו מדבריהם שהם נכונים ומוכנים לעשות הסכם ולהחזיר את כל החטופות והחטופים הביתה. אני רוצה להגיד ללירי שאם היא רואה את זה, שלירי, אנחנו נלחמים עלייך ואנחנו לא מוותרים עלייך, ואת חוזרת הביתה בחיים, את חוזרת. נכון שקשה שם ונכון שאת סובלת, אבל את חוזרת הביתה בחיים. אמא מבטיחה לך, אמא ואבא מבטיחים לך, ואנחנו מקיימים הבטחות, וזה יקרה עוד מעט, בעזרת השם זה יקרה עוד מעט, תאמיני בזה, אנחנו לא מוותרים. אל תוותרי גם את שם, תמשיכי להילחם ולשרוד. את חזקה ואת מסוגלת, אנחנו פה נלחמים עלייך. אני אוהבת אותך כל כך, ומתגעגעת מאוד, ומחכה כבר לחיבוק איתך.
Hamas claims to have offered Israel a list of 34 hostages for release in a potential ceasefire deal. But Netanyahu's office has denied receiving such a proposal, adding to the frustration. Negotiations mediated by Qatar, Egypt, and the U.S. have stalled, even as Netanyahu has allowed Israeli negotiators to rejoin the talks. Critics accuse him of stalling under domestic pressure. Amid the standoff, one family member of a hostage pleaded directly.
like every Saturday evening, we come to the rally to call for our loved ones who are still in captivity. My father, Gadi Moses, is still there, 456 days. We got the movie for Lily Elbag, and as much as I'm happy for the family to see her alive, it's very concerning to see her status and not knowing about all the others. So we really hope that the delegation that went to the conversation will get to some agreement and we'll see all our loved ones as soon as possible.
As indirect talks in Qatar reportedly resume, the region remains on edge. Will diplomacy prevail or will the tension spiral into an even greater crisis? It's a new era for traffic management in New York City. The nation's first ever congestion pricing plan is now in effect, promising to cut traffic and fund mass transit. But not everybody's on board.
Congestion pricing, and proof of how historic this is, you know, at midnight, not only was New York One leading with this story, but the BBC World Service led with the story that New York was the first city in the United States to adopt a congestion pricing scheme. So we're very proud of that.
While the system has only just begun, it's already widespread.
The system has been in operation since midnight. 1,400 cameras, over 110 detection points, separate detection points on the borders of the congestion zone and within the zones. There are well over 800 signs, and there are 400 lanes of traffic that are within the zone. And drivers are going to start to see the toll charges appearing on their Easy Pass bills in a few days.
Taxi passengers will also feel the impact with an additional 75-cent charge per trip.
Roughly 700,000 vehicles enter Manhattan Central Business District every day. And so that's kind of the pool of drivers that could be affected by congestion pricing. By and large, those drivers are higher income than transit users, and about 6 million people ride the transit system every day in New York. So there's kind of an equity argument about what the impacts of the program will be.
All these people making those decisions, they don't live in the city. They even don't know what's going on here. People who ride the survey have to pay more if they have to. Why people have to pay more when they drive, their car?
It affects everybody because we have to come in every day. We take the bridge every day, which charges $9, and I have my workers come the same thing. It affects everybody. And it really is too much for everyone.
A lot of people who work in downtown or some other places, they have to, or some people who travel from Connecticut or Staten Island or any Pennsylvania, so they had to take a car to come, and now they have to pay for 5 days extra money, those working days. I think it's not fair. Like, I could understand if you're charging $2 or something, but $9 is a lot.
But Lieber insists the project's main focus is reducing traffic and saving time for consumers.
If you do drive, if you have to drive, we want you to spend less time stuck in traffic. Your time is worth real money, and that's why the business community has supported this so much, because time wasted in traffic is a huge drag on our economy. So we want to see speeds pick up, especially for buses now moving at under 5 miles an hour in mid.
However, the plan has its critics. President-elect Donald Trump has voiced strong opposition, claiming it could disadvantage New York against other cities and states. He may try to repeal the toll program once he takes office on January 20.
President Trump and others who are incoming into the administration have discussed this congestion fee as a challenge to business operations in particular. In fact, the experience that we've seen in places like London and Stockholm is that there was no net effect to business operations. And in fact, customers continued to visit businesses within the zone, and deliveries arrived on time and were more reliable, and workers had more reliable schedules because of this new program in place.
Louisiana health officials have confirmed the first human death from bird flu in the United States. The patient, who was over 65 with underlying health conditions, contracted the virus after exposure to backyard chickens and wild birds.
It is cold and flu season, so we do have a lot of people that are sick right now with these respiratory viruses. And this one's a little different because this person was infected with a strain of influenza that was spread from wild birds to their domestic birds and then to themselves. And so in a way, the risk is pretty localized, although it does seem to be growing across the US. So I guess what that means for Louisiana is the risk to the general public is still low. This is the only case that's been identified in people. This is not a strain of influenza that can spread between people, luckily.
The case comes amid an ongoing bird flu outbreak that has affected both wild and domestic birds across the country. Since 2022, nearly 130 million birds have been impacted, along with hundreds of dairy herds.
And the majority of people that are infected with seasonal flus. And some of those are directly from person to person. Some of those are from wild animals, eventually to people, and then spreading through the human population. And those are always much more of a concern because there's so many people that are infected on an annual basis. And like our case here, if you're older, you're immunocompromised, you have underlying health conditions, that puts you at a much greater risk of severe mortality, being hospitalized, and potentially dying from the infection.
Health experts emphasize the importance of prevention, especially during this season.
It's still a good time to get your flu shot. Flu shot's going to prevent not avian influenza, but seasonal influenza and the possibility of being co-infected with those viruses, which is really what we're more concerned in the long run, that this bird flu that we have spreading across the US right now has some kind of mutation or a reassortment event, which makes it more transmissible between people, which is what we have not seen yet.
State health officials have issued specific guidance for the public.
What the state recommended and what we would recommend is that people be careful about sick and dead animals and their droppings and contact with them, and not eating undercooked poultry or eggs or milk, consuming milk that hasn't been pasteurized.
And for those concerned about backyard bird feeders, experts offer specific advice.
We do have this happening all the time. We do have migratory birds moving from different parts of the country. We sometimes have them infected with bird flu viruses, and they can spread to local birds or to backyard flocks. And I believe most recommendations are, keep those bird feeders up to feed the birds in your neighborhood. But if you have a backyard flock, try and keep that distance from the flock to not encourage that interaction between your birds that you are either growing because of agriculture or your backyard poultry and those wild birds that are passing through.
Globally, the World Health Organization reports that of the more than 950 human cases of bird flu recorded, approximately half have resulted in death. Tonight, France confirms its first case of a new Mpox variant, raising concerns across Europe. French health officials say the patient, a woman in the northwestern region of Brittany, contracted the virus despite not traveling to Central Africa, where the variant originated. However, she had been in contact with 2 people who recently returned from the region. The case was discovered at a hospital in Rennes, and health authorities are now racing to trace all potential contacts while investigating the source of the infection. This new strain, known as Clade 1b, is the same variant that prompted the World Health Organization to declare a global health emergency last August. It has already appeared in other European nations, with both Germany and Britain reporting their first cases in October. French health officials continue to monitor the situation closely as they work to prevent further spread of this new variant. And the news continues here on Net 25. We'll be right back.
National Rally for Peace, January 13, 2025. A Net 25 special coverage. Excited ka na bang malaman kung ikaw ang nanalo ng mga exciting prizes na ito sa ating Net25 Selfie with the Agila promo? Abangan ang nalalapit na announcement ng winners sa Love, Tony Pet, and Everything. Kada umaga, ESPN, sa Ganang Mamamayan at Mata ng Agila Primetime. Kaya naman tumutok lang dito sa Net25.
NVIDIA, now the world's second most valuable tech company, unveiled its vision for the future at CES 2025, with CEO Jensen Huang showcasing breakthrough developments in gaming, artificial intelligence, and robotics.
Here it is, our brand new GeForce RTX 50 series Blackwell architecture. The GPU is just a beast. 92 billion transistors, 4,000 TOPS, 4 petaflops of AI, 3 times higher than the last generation Ada. And we need all of it to generate those pixels that I showed you.
The new gaming chips promises movie-quality graphics with revolutionary AI technology for creating realistic human faces and textures.
So can you imagine? You get this incredible graphics card here, Blackwell. We're going to shrink it and put it in there. Does that make any sense? Well, you can't do that without artificial intelligence. And the reason for that is because we're generating most of the pixels using our tensor cores. So we ray trace only the pixels we need, and we generate using artificial intelligence all of the other pixels we have. As a result, the energy efficiency is just off the charts.
In the automotive sector, NVIDIA announced a partnership with Toyota while highlighting the company's role in the autonomous vehicle revolution.
The AV revolution has arrived. After so many years, with Waymo's success and Tesla's success, it is very, very clear autonomous vehicles has finally arrived. Well, our offering to this industry is the 3 computers: the training systems to train the AIs, the simulation systems, and the synthetic data generation systems, Omniverse and now Cosmos, and also the computer that's inside the car. Each car company might work with us in a different way, use 1 or 2 or 3 of the computers. We're working with just about every major car company around the world.
Perhaps most striking was Wang's prediction about the future of robotics.
My friends, the ChatGPT moment for general robotics is just around the corner. And in fact, all of the enabling technologies that I've been talking about is going to make it possible for us in the next several years to see very rapid breakthroughs, surprising breakthroughs in general robotics.
The company also unveiled a new AI supercomputer aimed at transforming how we work.
This is now the new way of doing computing. This is the new way of doing software. Every software engineer, every creative artist, everybody who uses computers today as a tool will need an AI supercomputer. And so I just wish that DGX-1 was smaller. And imagine, ladies and gentlemen, this is NVIDIA's latest AI supercomputer. And it's finally called Project Digits right now. Imagine this is what it looks like. You know, who doesn't want one of those? And if you use PC, Mac, anything.
And finally, NASA astronaut Don Petit captured the Northern Lights from space in footage released on Sunday. Petit was above eastern Canada when he orbited over the Northern Lights, also referred to as Aurora Borealis. And with that, we end tonight's broadcast. For everyone here on Net25, I'm Alma Angeles. Thank you all for joining us. Good night.